Stephanie Lowe. What do we really know about the woman who has supposedly spent the past 3 decades sticking to Phillip Schofield's side, and more importantly, could she have known about her husband's sexuality all along? Finding information about the mysterious Steph has proved rather difficult, but we have established that Stephanie Lowe was born on the 26th of March 1964, and her father is John Lowe, who underwent life-saving valve surgery. At the time, Phillip said, "I'm going to show you a picture, if that's okay. We've had a hell of a weekend of it. My father-in-law John has had a new valve fitted, there it is, that was taken yesterday at St. Bart's. He's making a great recovery." Stephanie's mother is Gillian Lowe, who spoke from the Berkshire home she shares with John, saying, "We are just totally supportive of him," just after Phillip came out as gay in 2020. Gillian is said to be close to her daughter Stephanie, their grandchildren, and son-in-law Phillip, pictured here together on a sunny break in 2012. Phillip was also pictured greeting his mother-in-law Gillian as she came to watch him film Mr. and Mrs. at ITV Studios in 2015. We have also discovered that Stephanie Lowe has a sister called Georgina Lowe, a film and television producer. She has 2 daughters, Matilda and Sophie, and is married to the actor Sam Graham. But how exactly did Phillip Schofield meet Stephanie Lowe and become part of this family? Just before they met, Phillip Schofield fell in with a group of friends he called the Chiswick Mafia, led by Peter Powell and his then-girlfriend Anthea Turner. Peter Powell, as it happens, is the original co-founder of talent agency YMU, then called James Grant Media Group, more on that later. The other key members were Powell's business partner Russ Lindsay, the other co-founder of YMU, and Russ's then-girlfriend, the late Karen Keating. When Peter Powell and Anthea Turner married in 1990, Phillip Schofield called it in an interview, "the final straw." He remarked that Powell was the very last bastion of bachelorhood, and that he was now looking for a life partner himself. But who would be his Mrs. Right? Schofield didn't need to look far. He had already been introduced to Stephanie Lowe, a production assistant at the BBC, by TV presenter Andy Crane at a party in 1988. Andy Crane himself incidentally married a lady called Caroline in 1992 and went on to have 3 children, but as yet, Blinkerhole cannot find a single photograph of Caroline or his children. Crane is pictured here though, with Phillip Schofield and Andy Peters in a post he put on Twitter in 2022. Romance is said to have blossomed between Phillip Schofield and Stephanie Lowe in 1991, and they began living together that summer. Schofield had just started his leading role in the musical Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. A year later, Schofield said with satisfaction that his girlfriend looks after me on my day off. Stephanie said, "He's really wonderful." She wasn't the only one to think so. At the time, Phillip was getting 500 letters a week from lovelorn teenage girls who mobbed him so much in the streets that he had to leave the house in disguise. He told an interview at the time, "Sometimes when these youngsters have been waiting outside for me, for hours in the cold, it would be so easy to give them a lift to the tube or whatever. But I can't. It would only take one of them to make up some cock and bull story for a Sunday tabloid, and that would be a disaster. A lot of 13-year-olds I meet are quite adult. When they hang around places waiting for me, I wonder if their parents really know where they are. I have to be very careful." He also said that he was happy with his girlfriend Steph. "I never shared a flat before I lived in London. I always ended up in a bedsit on my own and had to have stair parties because the room was too small to invite people in. So it's taken a lot to get used to having someone else in the house and having their things around. Now I like it. I like having someone to come home to and discuss things with. I like coming home when the lights are on in the house, bread is being baked and the garden is mowed." Asked whether he was in love, he replied, I think so. What does being in love mean? Where have we heard a version of that before? Yes, the now infamous interview with Charles and Diana in 1981. Phillip continued, "We get on very well. She's very close to me and we're good mates. Love is about trusting someone, having them trust you, enjoying seeing them, liking their company." Though he has also said of his partnership with Steph, "You'd have thought someone wouldn't be attracted to a man with a puppet and dodgy jumpers." Around this time, rumors about his sexuality were rife, and Phillip's response to it back then was, "It makes no odds to me what people say, but I think my girlfriend, Steph, would have something to say about it." According to an article by the Daily Mail published in 2020, Phillip had also said at that time that he had never had a sexual relationship with a man. "I never felt like it, no, absolutely not. Quite a lot of men I know have, but not necessarily me. I would never sleep with a man, but I'm not homophobic." Phillip was 30 years old when he is said to have popped the question to Stephanie, who is 2 years younger, and apparently he did it in a very cheeky way, in the nude. He said, "I proposed to Steph in an advent calendar." He explained that the ring was in an advent calendar and you could put your own things into the little boxes. "I put in some bath salts and cheap things just for every day. Then on the given day I'd chosen I put the engagement ring in, and when she opened it I hopped out of bed starkers and got down on one knee." Phillip and Steph were married soon after, in a private ceremony on March 29, 1993, when Steph was 5 months pregnant. Strangely, there seems to be conflicting stories about the number of guests and what they wore on their big day. The Daily Mail reported in 2020 that there were 17 guests in the Great Hall of Achigill Tower in Caithness on that day, and that the groom wore a kilt and the bride wore a tartan sash and carried lucky heather. However, another article states that there were just 15 guests in attendance, and a photograph we found of the day in question reports a different story altogether regarding their attire. In the very rare photo, in fact the only one that has been seen publicly, the bride and groom can be seen posing with what looks to be Phillip's parents, Brian and Pat. Phillip is sporting a blue Omani suit, not a kilt as reported in the Daily Mail, whilst bride Steph is wearing an off-the-peg long-sleeved flowing dress from Liberty, and her large bouquet is made up of white flowers with green foliage. Even the year Phillip got married appears to be in question. Schofield has long professed his love for his wife, previously saying, "I love her so very much. She is the kindest soul I have ever met," yet Blinkerhole has discovered a clip where he seemingly can't remember when he got married to Stephanie, which is very well reported to be the 29th of March 1993. We do find his memory lapse rather odd, since his firstborn daughter Molly May was born on July 12, 1993, the very same year and only 4 months after he married Stephanie. Here is a short clip we found of Phillip Schofield getting caught off guard by the panel on Loose Women in 2016, when he was asked when he got married.
We've been married since 1992.
Oh.
So it's.
No, Phillip, it was definitely 1993, not 1992, or was it? He also spoke of his marriage to Steph on the same program, saying, "We had to have a quick secret wedding because I was at the Palladium at the time," referring to his role as Joseph. Blinkerhole found an old photograph of Phillip Schofield and his new wife Stephanie at Wick Airport, said to be taken just after their wedding at Achigill Tower, which he has since named as one of the places he would spend his dream 24 hours. Achigill Tower, or Achigill Castle as it is sometimes known, is located on the coast of Sinclair's Bay, about 4 kilometers north of Wick, Caithness, in northern Scotland. It was built in the early 16th century, and is a Category A listed building. Blinkerhole has discovered that Achigill Tower was sold in 1986. The castle then underwent a 2-year period of restoration work before reopening as a hotel. It wasn't until 2014, however, that Achigill Tower operated as an events and wedding venue by Amazing Venues, before being sold to American millionaire Betsy Parker in 2019, who turned it into her private home. Who owned the castle in 1993, the year of Schofield's wedding, is anyone's guess. Some more research is required on that one. What we did discover though, is that the castle during those hedonistic days in the 90s played host to high-profile guests from the worlds of finance, politics, and show business, and was dubbed the Billionaire's Bolt Hole, a Scottish castle hideaway for the rich and famous, a place where Jack Nicholson, Richard Branson, and Michael Douglas stayed, and which had 30 acres of grounds and a driveway that stretched for a mile, presumably handy for keeping out prying eyes. Phillip and Stephanie's nuptials were apparently held on a Monday, Phillip's day off from Joseph. Decades later, Schofield admitted that he realized on his wedding day he might be gay, stating, "I am not saying I didn't know. Whatever was there, I thought, okay, whatever this is, you stay back because I am happy." He added, "If you ask anyone who is gay, they know, there is no confusion." His marriage to Stephanie attracted the attention of the nation's paparazzi, with many swooping in to try and catch a piece of the action. Reporters and photographers hovered in the trees outside waiting for a photo opportunity which was destined not to happen. The wedding was reported to have cost over £22,000, with an additional £7,000 said to have been splashed out on a private jet to fly the guests to Wick. Philip's pal Russ Lindsay, one of the 15 guests, called it the most uncelebrity wedding in history. And guest Peter Powell by then had already formed the successful talent management company James Grant Media Group in 1984 with business partner Russell Lindsay while still working as a DJ at Radio 1. The name comes from both partners' middle names. The company over the years has worked with major TV stars including Anthea Turner, Simon Cowell, Ant and Dec and Lowe, and behold, Schofield supporter Piers Morgan. It was bought out by Formation Group in 2008, with Peter Powell, Philip's bestie, becoming a major shareholder and board member. Now that same company is called YMU Group. After the ceremony, the Schofields' wedding party apparently sat down to enjoy a Scottish feast in the baronial dining room. Haggis was piped in, with Wickman Eric Farquhar giving the address. All the guests later enjoyed a grand Highland fling with music provided by local artistes, including members of the Wick RBLS pipe band. The wedding party were also treated to a song from Philip himself when he sang Any Dream Will Do from the hit musical he was starring in at the time. Oh, to be a fly on the wall. Conducting the ceremony was the Reverend Alistair Roy, the former minister of Wick Bridge Street Church. Mr. Roy described the occasion as unique and said it was the first time he had officiated at the wedding of a celebrity. I was very pleased to be involved in it, Mr. Roy said, adding that in his view it was a compliment to Caithness that the couple had decided to travel to the area to be married. The minister said there had been a number of media representatives waiting outside the tower in the wind and rain, and he thought Philip had made a nice gesture when he decided to send some whiskey out to help keep the press pack warm, but Blinkerhole believes it was perhaps to soften the blow for not getting a single photograph of the happy couple on their big day. And, oddly, years later an Edinburgh man appeared in court in Caithness accused of fire-raising at Ackergill Tower. He was alleged to have, while acting with another in the early hours of January 5, 2014, willfully set a fire in a cellar whereby it ignited a painting, a carpet and a quantity of paper, and the fire took hold and caused extensive damage to the cellar and contents and smoke damage throughout the hotel. Apparently John Hansen, an expert on fires, had been called in to investigate the outbreak and said there were no obvious signs of it having been an accident in any shape or form and that a brown pattern on the edge of the carpet indicated a liquid accelerant had been employed. So, perhaps one could surmise that any paperwork from those early days at the castle and indeed any records of any nuptials held there are now presumably destroyed. So the question remains, could it be possible that Stephanie Lowe has known all along about Philip's sexuality? In an article published on the 7th of February 2020 by the Daily Mail, the link is in the description. Philip said of the claims he was courting Steph to hide any secret, "You can't win, can you? But I defy them to find any evidence of this allegation." He added on the source of the rumors, "I don't know. Maybe because I'm fresh-faced. Maybe because I'm not open, so people assume there is something to hide," adding he was in love and monogamous because I'm terrified of AIDS. Philip has also admitted that he had doubts about his sexuality even on his wedding day and thought he might be bisexual. He added he was naive to think he could suppress his feelings while he was married but kept quiet because he and Stephanie were happy and living a perfect life. Speaking on Loose Women in 2016, he admitted he and his wife have an allowed to list, adding, "I think mine was for a while Penelope Cruz and Jennifer Aniston. Steph's was Matthew Perry and Jensen Button." He also said that Steph has her own secret Twitter account so that she could keep an eye on him online, but insisted that jealousy is good for any relationship, adding, "It's nice to be wanted." But Philip has said he wasn't being honest with myself as he talked publicly about his sexuality for the first time. Speaking to former co-host Holly Willoughby on This Morning with tears in his eyes, after he came out as gay in 2020, Philip gave an emotional tribute to his wife and said, "I'm really very aware that Steph and the girls are at home watching this and we're all together, and we spent a lot of time together. We spend a lot of time together obviously. And they've been supporting us as we got to this moment and we all knew it was coming." In an article by the Daily Mail in 2020, the link to it is in the description, it states that Philip had developed close mentoring relationships with various young male colleagues in recent years, which again fueled gossip. The article goes on, a former colleague from This Morning says, "There have been so many rumors about him and gay lovers. In recent years, He has seemingly started to express his identity with how he dresses and carries himself, too. A lot of people who know him thought he would never come out, that he would just stay this way until he retired. The article continues. John Roseman, once Schofield's ex-co-host Fern Britton's agent, recalls being in Cornwall 20 years ago with Fern and her, now estranged, husband Phil Vickery, having a meal at Rick Stein's restaurant when the chef began talking about Phil and his boyfriends. As Schofield himself indicated in a recent TV interview, he has never had secrets from Steph, who was, as the article alleges, aware as he wrestled with his identity for years. He added, "It is tough, but it's not something that has happened quickly. It does make you wonder, if other people surrounding the couple were aware over 20 years ago, it really does beg the question, how could his wife Stephanie not know?" Steph said of Philip's coming out as gay that this was a painful time in their marriage, but added, "Everyone should be proud to live their own truth." So, if indeed, she did know all along, what could have been in it for Stephanie Lowe? Well, there's the fact that she was pregnant with his child when they married, and there's the other small detail, money. Philip has previously said of his wife, "She worked in television years ago, that was how we met, so she can do it, she just doesn't want to these days." During a rare appearance on TV in 2022, Stephanie startled viewers by issuing a brutal swipe. Philip had been surprised in his dressing room by Lorraine Kelly with a whole show celebrating his 40th work anniversary. Steph appeared on the show via video link with their daughter Molly as she was quizzed on his key to success. She said, "I don't have a clue. I think your previous guests have hit the nail on the head. He's genuinely interested in people and the news. He's great fun. I've always been so proud of him," Molly replied as she recalled queuing up for his autograph once. Lorraine asked, "What do the girls mean to you?" "Everything. I mean, we clearly had changes in our lives," Phil replied. "But as I said, it's always been us four, but slightly different. Steph has been the most incredible foundation and support and rock throughout my career. The girls, I couldn't be more proud of. So yeah, we are a family." Lorraine added, addressing Steph, "and 40 years. I mean, here's to the next 40, eh, Steph?" "Yes, I need him to keep on working," Steph joked. They all laughed as Lorraine said, "As always, the last word." So, with Philip in his own words saying that his wife doesn't want to work and Stephanie, in her own words saying that she needs him to keep on working, what will happen next? Could she be finally after a divorce since his career has gone down the pan? Schofield's former boss, Diane Nelms, said in 2020 that she thinks they may well carry on being married for years. She says, whether he and Steph divorce is their private affair, but they will always be a strong couple. "I am sure he will always be there for her and she will be there for him." But could money play a bigger factor in this unlikely pairing than we first realized? Should the question really being asked be, can Philip afford to get a divorce? It appears that Stephanie Lowe, or rather Stephanie Schofield as company's house states, is currently co-director of not only Fistral Properties, which holds all of the money from Philip's property investments across the UK, but she is also co-director of Fistral Productions, Schofield's main firm, which was set up in 2010. Its earnings come from Philip's media, entertainment and presenting services. Company's House showed that both companies still have a registered address of 180 Great Portland Street, London, England, W1W5QZ, which is the very same address as YMU Group, the talent agency Phillip Schofield was apparently dropped from. The company that his daughter Molly May still works for as a talent manager, and the very same company that best mates Peter Powell and Russ Lindsay founded, the men who were important enough to be two of only 15 guests attending Philip and Stephanie's wedding, all those years ago. Please like and subscribe for more journeys through the Blinkerhole. For entertainment purposes only.